Hey YouTube, you know who it is. It's Waylon again. I've had quite a few requests to uh, shoot a more detailed video of how I put this shelter together. It's a simple, it started out a solid shelter, and then I kind of mixed a different method in with it. It's what is called a core shelter. It's not totally a core shelter because the four exterior walls are solid cinder block. Everything is concreted together, reinforced with half-inch rebar and anchored into the concrete floor of the basement. Now, I started this project not really knowing what the hell I was doing. And I still don't. I'm kind of learning by not what I get done, but I'm learning by the mistakes that I've made. I realize now that maybe I could have placed a shelter a little better in the basement, but I've always heard that you wanted to build your shelter in the southeast corner of the basement. So that's what I did. But unfortunately, I've had trouble with the air conditioning vents being in the way of this shelter, and I probably actually would recommend having an additional 6 inches of clearance above your head to be comfortable while walking around in the shelter. Because right now I'm 5'9", and the bottom of these 2x4s here are 5'10", so I can feel my dreadlocks hitting the rafters when I walk, and it's just kind of irritating. So always be sure you have plenty of headroom in your shelter. Another thing that I would recommend not to do is that my roof joists are free floating, meaning that the joists were cut the same length as the inside of the shelter because I hung them in metal brackets, fastened to the metal brackets like this to the 2x4, and then concreted it in and screwed it into the concrete with masonry screws. Alright, I recommend that you don't do that. Even though the two layers of the decking exceed all the way out to the exterior of the 8-inch concrete brick wall like this here. So I just really think it'd be more supportive if you would almost build a frame to set on top of the shelter and drill it in and bolt the frame down with red heads. The red head is what I used here. It's just a threaded stud that you drill a hole. It has a head on it that expands when you tighten down the nut. It pulls out and expands. But I just cut mine. All my 2x4s hang in the brackets. It was pretty easy. It has two layers of this half-inch press board's what I call it. Now, wherever I put the press board and I bumped it up against each other, you would get a seam like this right here on the edge of the plywood. Now that will really let a lot of dust into your shelter. Some people say put plastic. I say no, just let it go. What I did is I staggered. I put one layer of all the plywood going one direction and the other layer going the opposite direction to help reduce the openings in the seam where the plywood met. I also eliminated a lot of the seams by centering them on the 2x4s and putting a large volume of wood screws through the plywood into the 2x4 to also seal that seam. One man asked me, well, how do you support all the weight? Well, this is the answer. This is a floor jack. These are adjustable. This one here sells for $40 at pretty much any hardware store. And I have 3 of these now. I have one homemade 4x4, which is simply on a automotive bottle jack. And then I have 2 temporary 2x4s, which are going to be replaced by 2 more of these floor jacks, which can be manually adjusted here with a simple crescent wrench. I was going to take my living room carpet up and frame in around the exterior of the shelter and have the concrete truck poured concrete to my floor, and decided that with today's economy, that if I ever lost the house, all of the money I had in the shelter, I would be out also. So that is the turning point of the shelter design, where I started implementing the core shelter. Basically, this entire shelter, if I couldn't make the mortgage payment, could come apart and be moved to a different location. Everything except for the 4 exterior walls, which there is no way they are coming out without a jackhammer. And I'm not gonna. It would run the brick. So basically, if I ever lost the house, because we got that mortgage hanging over us, this room would be here, nothing but these 4 walls. Everything would be gone. The roof would be gone. The poles would be gone. The door jambs, everything I could take to a different location and salvage some material. Now, you're probably like, Waylon, what are you going to do with that concrete roof? Well, let me show you. It's a little more expensive, and this is a fallout shelter. There's nothing saying that the roof has to be solid concrete. So this is simple. I used a 4x4 here to fill the gap. Brought the bricks all the way to the edge. These are 4-inch thick, 8-inch wide, 16-inch long cap block, which sell for $1.49 a piece. And there are approximately 750 cap block on top of this shelter. Now, for additional shielding from radiation, other than the 2 sheets of press board and the 4-inch concrete brick, I have intentions on purchasing and filling a large selection of sandbags, which would be an additional 6 inches of coverage for the shelter. The door is simple. This door is just temporarily so I can lock it and keep the kids out of it. It's a double layer plywood. This will be replaced with a heavier door, safer door, and an airtight door. These braces should be going in soon. All of the joints for the cross members and stuff are supported with metal braces and wood screws like this, all from your local hardware store. All of the seals on the cinder blocks are getting sealed with liquid nails and painted over. I'm currently working on a 12-volt ventilation system here. That's what this is. This is my 12-volt intake. I've got a battery down here. I'm working on this week. Pretty simple. It's just a 12-volt blower inside a piece of CPVC or PVC piping, and it runs up through the roof and has a homemade carbon filter on it. So I'm actually doing a thing now where I can see how long I can run